What if the world you see isn't real? What if everything you believe to be true, every shape, color, sound, or emotion, is just your mind's best guess? That's not science fiction. That's the terrifying, fascinating truth behind Aldous Huxley's words. There are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. That single sentence opens up a universe of questions. Are we truly perceiving reality? Or are we simply perceiving ourselves, mirrored back through the filters of biology, memory, fear, desire? Huxley believed that the brain doesn't reveal reality, it reduces it. Our senses, limited by evolution, are designed not for truth, but for survival. We don't experience the world in all its infinite complexity. Instead, we're handed a carefully edited version of it, stripped of intensity, dulled for comfort. Imagine staring at the sun through 10 layers of fog. What you see is technically true, but it's not the full picture. That's your daily experience of life, according to Huxley. You think you're awake, but you might just be dreaming a quieter dream. This isn't just poetic, it's neurological. Scientists now know that your brain processes only a fraction of the sensory information it receives. The rest? Discarded, muted, hidden behind the veil of perception. And here's the punch. You can never be fully sure whether what you're experiencing is real or just internally constructed coherence. Huxley explored this deeply through altered states of consciousness, not because he wanted to escape the world, but because he was desperate to see it, clearly, unfiltered, raw. His experiments with mescaline weren't about rebellion. They were about revelation, about finding a crack in the wall and peering through to what might lie beyond. And he wasn't alone. Nietzsche said, "There are no facts, only interpretations." William Blake warned, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite." These thinkers weren't just being dramatic. They were trying to shake us awake. Because if perception is a door, then most of us are living in locked rooms, staring at shadows, calling them truth. We're taught to trust what we see, what we feel, what we hear. But what if that trust is the very thing blinding us? Huxley's insight is more relevant now than ever. In a digital world where algorithms feed us curated truths, where social media is a hall of mirrors, where news is filtered, opinions echoed, and reality branded, how much of what we perceive is actually ours? And how much is designed, manufactured, controlled? We live in a time when perception has become a battlefield. And if you don't know how perception works, you don't know where you stand in that war. You might not even know you're in it. The scariest part is how comfortable the illusion can be. It's not loud, it doesn't demand your attention. It lulls you, wraps you in confirmation bias, keeps you safe, keeps you numb. That's why Huxley's warning isn't just philosophical, it's psychological warfare. Because to truly see, without filters, without comfort, is terrifying. But it's also the only way to reclaim reality. Once you realize that perception shapes everything, your identity, your fears, your beliefs, you begin to question not just what you see, but who is doing the seeing. That's the real door, and most people never open it. They decorate it, worship it, hide behind it, but they never walk through. Huxley did, and what he saw wasn't just beautiful, it was disturbing, because it meant freedom, and freedom always comes at the cost of certainty. And once you glimpse that freedom, even for a moment, nothing looks the same again, because you start to see how tightly constructed everything is. Social norms, identity, morality, even time itself, all perceived, all filtered, all subjective. You're not just a passive receiver of reality. You're a participant in its creation. That's what Huxley was really getting at. The world isn't something that happens to you. It's something you're complicit in building, second by second, choice by choice. And here's where it gets existential. If your perception shapes reality, then what happens when that perception is manipulated? Who are you when your thoughts are not your own? In a world flooded with ads, feeds, screens, and signals, can you still claim ownership over your experience? Or have the doors of perception been replaced by glass walls, transparent, invisible, yet unbreakable? This is why thinkers like Carl Jung warned that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. It's why Marshall McLuhan said, "The medium is the message." Because it's not just what you're seeing, it's how, where, and through whom you're seeing it. Every medium shapes your lens. Every platform shapes your mind. And the most dangerous illusions are the ones that feel normal. Huxley wasn't offering easy answers. He was issuing a challenge. To question not just society, but sensation. Not just knowledge, but knowing. He wasn't telling you to reject what's around you. He was begging you to see it, really see it, before it's too late. Because once perception hardens into ideology, once illusion becomes identity, we no longer guard the door. We become it. And maybe that's the greatest tragedy, that we spend our lives decorating the walls of the prison rather than searching for the key. That we confuse comfort with clarity. That we keep lying to ourselves because the truth is just too heavy, too raw, too real. But Huxley believed, and this is the radical part, that even a sliver of clarity could shatter the illusion. Even a moment of honest perception could change everything. That's why this conversation isn't just philosophy, it's survival. In an age of manufactured reality, your ability to perceive clearly is your most revolutionary act. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us clean those doors, scrub away the fog of habit, ideology, distraction, we might finally remember what it means to see. Because seeing, truly seeing, isn't about vision. It's about awareness. It's the courage to question not only what's out there, but what's in here. In your assumptions, in your beliefs, in the quiet scripts running in the background of your mind that you never wrote, but repeat every day. This is who I am. This is how the world works. This is just the way things are. But where did those scripts come from? And more importantly, can you rewrite them? Aldous Huxley thought you could. He believed that consciousness could be expanded, not just chemically, but through honest introspection and radical clarity. And in that clarity, the structures of illusion begin to dissolve. The labels fall away. The roles crumble. The ego trembles. What's left is not chaos, but possibility. Space to grow, space to choose, space to see. And this is where thinkers like Alan Watts and Jiddu Krishnamurti walk alongside Huxley. Watts spoke of the illusion of the separate self, how we cling to an identity like armor, forgetting we are the ocean pretending to be waves. Krishnamurti warned that it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. These thinkers didn't offer escape, they offered awakening. The doors of perception aren't just metaphors, they are invitations. Invitations to look deeper, to feel more fully, to listen beyond the noise, to realize that most of what we call truth is really consensus. Most of what we call reality is a pattern we agreed not to question. But what if we did question it? What if we paused, even briefly, and asked, is this mine? This thought, this fear, this dream, did I choose it or did I inherit it? And maybe that's where the real revolution begins. Not in the streets, but in the stillness of your mind. Not with answers, but with better questions. Not with a louder voice, but with clearer perception. And once you begin to ask those questions, once you start cracking open the shell of conditioned perception, something remarkable happens. The world doesn't just look different, it becomes different. Not because it changed, but because you did. The colors seem sharper, the silence is heavier, the contradictions clearer. You start to notice how language frames your reality, how fear masquerades as practicality, how conformity wears the mask of sanity. This is what Huxley was pointing to, not just in the doors of perception, but in Brave New World as well. He saw that societies don't necessarily collapse under violence, they decay under comfort, under distraction, under the slow numbing of authentic experience. He warned us of a world where people would love their servitude, where freedom would be bartered for pleasure, and where perception would be dulled not by force, but by choice. And that warning wasn't fiction. It was prophecy. The real battle for freedom is not external. It's internal. It's fought on the front lines of awareness, in the quiet decision to stay awake, to not let the lull of routine hypnotize you, to refuse the easy answers, to recognize that every door of perception you open isn't just a new view, it's a new version of you. And that's why this idea still echoes today, not just in psychedelic culture or literature or philosophy, but in art, in music, in activism. When Jim Morrison named his band The Doors, he wasn't just being poetic. He was declaring allegiance to that space between known and unknown, to that holy uncertainty where transformation lives. Because if there are things known and things unknown, then the middle is where the magic is. The tension, the risk, the revelation. It's where we meet ourselves, not as we've been told we are, but as we might become. So maybe the real question is not what do you know, but what are you still blind to? What truths have you refused to see because they were inconvenient, uncomfortable, or dangerous? The doors of perception are always there, waiting, but only you can choose to walk through. Because in the end, your freedom is not something handed to you. It's something you awaken to, and every moment you stay asleep, someone else writes your story. Open your eyes, step through the door, and do not go back.